I mean, vaguely similar to that, but they look like this. Okay? But they were smaller helicopters, not like the gigantic one I'm going to show you. And they'd have a machine gun mounted on this side and a machine gun mounted on the other side. And what we did mostly was when a siren or buzzer bell would go off, we would run out to our helicopter and get it in and fly. And we would do several different things. We would either go pick up people who were wounded, who were shot or in the jungle, or we would deliver mail or food or water, or we would transport people from one place to another. But most of the time our duty was search and rescue. Most of the time we were rescuing Marines that were wounded in the jungle, and we would pick them up and take them to like a MASH unit like you'd see on TV, like a little hospital, or if they were very seriously wounded, we would fly out to a hospital ship. And so landing on a hospital ship, the funny thing about that was whenever we would land on a hospital ship and we would put the wounded out, somebody would be standing there with styrofoam cups full of ice cream, and they would hand us a styrofoam cup full of ice cream. So I always thought that was really good. Somebody on that ship knew that we didn't get ice cream, and they thought that would be a really good treat. And so they would always do that when we'd land on aboard of a ship. So I also lived aboard the ship for 3 months, and the ship would go up and down the coast of Vietnam, and it would go wherever the fighting was so that we could fly off back and forth rather than fly long distances. The ship would go where maybe there's going to be a battle and there was going to be wounded, so the ship would go down and then we could fly in and out that way. But the strange thing about landing on a ship, you've been in a boat, you've been on a bigger ship, and they do what? They go like this because of the waves. So here's a helicopter, and the boat's going like this, and the boat's going up and down from the waves, and the helicopter is coming and try to land. What happens if the helicopter lands when the ship's coming up and the helicopter's going down? It's a really hard bang. Sometimes it would break things, like maybe a strut or the wheels. Ours had wheels on them. Not like that. They were probably a little bit bigger than these. But so the pilots had to be pretty good. They had to watch the ship, and when the ship would come up, then the pilots would have to follow it down and land while it was going down. Otherwise it would be a real hard thump. So I flew, my recollection was 67 missions. Every time we got in the helicopter to go pick somebody up who was wounded, or take them food or water, or take them ammunition, that would be a mission. I flew 67 missions. Every time we flew 20 missions, these wings with the little stars, if we flew 20 missions and had combat where you got shot at, or the people you're with, maybe a couple of helicopters, if anybody is shooting or getting shot at in a combat environment, and you do 20 missions, you get a star to put on your wings. So I got 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars. So what's 3 times 20?
60.
Brixton. Paige, what's 3 times 20?
60.
So at least 60 missions. I can prove that right there. I can actually remember these little stars had little wires on them, and I can remember sticking them through the hole and putting this putty-like stuff on there. And I can remember doing that like 55 years ago. But we were in a place called Dong Ha, and we got attacked one day by artillery and rockets. And at that time, I thought we were just getting attacked nonstop, like almost like for hours. Come to find out, there's a good chance that it was our own own stuff that was blowing up around us after the Viet Cong hit the ammo dump. And I have learned things about the ammo dump that I didn't know before. I can go back, my mother always used to tell a story about how bad she felt because lived in Vallejo, California, and before I was born, it was about 1943 or 44. There's a place called Port Chicago. Port Chicago wasn't in Chicago, it was around Oakland, California. And an ammunition ship blew up, and it killed like 350 people. But the concussion traveled for miles, like 30 miles away to where my mom and dad and my brother lived. And it broke out windows and rattled the houses. And my mother said she just ran out of the house and left her baby sitting on the floor. She would tell us that story all the time because she felt so bad about doing it. So that was 5,000 tons of ammunition that exploded at Dong Ha when the ammunition dump exploded. First off, we had this huge ammunition dump, and all of the in the northern part of South Vietnam, they had this ammo dump that you'd take ammo from that and take it out to the soldiers that were in the jungle in different places. And it was really a huge ammo dump. In the middle of the ammo dump, they put a 500-pound bomb. So if it ever got overrun or they thought the enemy was going to take the ammo from that dump for themselves, they would set off the 500-pound bomb. Well, the enemy set off the 500-pound bomb with their rockets and artillery on the morning of September the 3rd, 1967. And the whole entire ammo dump exploded. And I remember being in the bunker that's underground with sandbags piled on top of us that were 4, 5, 6 feet thick. And bombs and things were raining down and falling on us. They would explode and the fire would come in the hole. And I can remember opening my mouth, because that's what they told us to do. Open your mouth to keep your ears from popping. Kind of like going in the hyperbaric chamber and your ears are getting plugged up, and you'd go like that and your ears would pop. Well, they'd tell us to do that to keep the ears from popping. So that's where I'm positive my hearing got, all messed up. But after that day was over, we had about 23, 24 helicopters in our squadron. Helicopters like this, a little bit bigger. I showed you a picture. After the day was over, we lost 18 of those helicopters. So we were no longer a functioning unit, and we had to leave Dong Ha because we couldn't do any good. We couldn't support anybody. We went back to Marble Mountain, and they got us more helicopters. But I will tell you, we'll go down here to this other helicopter, and I'll tell you a little bit about getting rescued by this helicopter down here, okay?
What'd you say?
I want to look inside.
Oh yeah, you can go look inside of it first. That's absolutely.